第9个，讲到 prayer 的部分，祈愿。今天继续讲最后一个，就是吉祥真悟8级7宝藏。
这张他当初卡塔等就会有的，但是8节对吧？你呢，3节个，我都把3节个3节个过了，让中国的呢，但是2节个，他确实是起码着的有的，别家呢，我了都叫让中国的3节其中我都进去我可以买的我，来把的都进去别从我这了，我了都叫让中的，他个进去我，把进去我有的3节了，这了通的8节让中的就这，别这到了，你就这这了，你这是大节的3节个，新让我从一个了，有的，这了样子的。这是大节个真呢，我呢，这到我说，呀，怕呢，对了，那个，真早是大节日的，样，就跟这个，有的，这都怕了的，有么差吧，这个做法，这老说把日的平，这些日有的，各性别的，日子。那个蓝用的这道的呢，都呢，超级把脚吧，他从这个搞的3节个亲上不知道，要说去讨回来的，他从这个了，这个艺术啊，那个他从艺。
So there are the 8 auspicious symbols, for example, and they are also sometimes printed on a kata, for example. And they are self-appearing symbols that appeared on the body of the Buddha when he attained perfectly complete enlightenment. So there are certain signs that naturally appeared on the Buddha's body, and some of them were the 8 auspicious symbols. For example, one of them is the parasol. And it is said when the Buddha attained enlightenment, his crown, his head, had then the shape of a parasol. So it was a very broad, very large crown that had the shape of a parasol. So it says it is a self-appearing, self-arisen parasol. So the 8 auspicious symbols are amongst the 32 major marks of the Buddha. And when we offer these 8 auspicious symbols, there is always a twofold result, a temporary and ultimate result. The temporary result is the result that corresponds to the cause. Each of these 8 auspicious symbols has a result that corresponds to the cause. So for example, that means when we are offering a parasol, then as a temporary result, that corresponds to the cause, one will be free from the fear of the heat of afflictive emotions. And so each of these 8 auspicious symbols has its own benefit, and they are part of the marks, the major marks of the Buddha's body. So temporarily, for as long as we are on the path, we will be free of the fears of heat and the heat of afflictions, by offering the parasol, and ultimately when we attain the result of enlightenment, then we will attain the same major mark of the parasol at the crown of our head. So each of these offerings always has the twofold result, the temporary and the ultimate result.
当我们讲到说8吉祥的时候，很多时候我们在卡达上面会印有8吉祥这种吉祥的征兆。那么我们知道这个8吉祥其实在佛陀圆满证悟的时候，它自然而然的生在佛陀的身上的。举一个例子来讲，好的，伞盖在佛陀证悟的时候，他的头顶有肉髻，那出来就像伞盖一样。 那么它这个是佛像的一个特征征兆。有一个就是说这种不同的这种八吉祥呢，它的有不同的功德利益，它有暂时的功德利益，也有就近的功德利益。暂时的来讲呢，它可以它是跟当初所造的因有相关联的。那每一个八吉祥也有它终究的意义。那比如说以伞盖来讲呢，伞盖在目前来讲就是说，只要你在修道的这个道路上，你就可以免于烦恼的这个热恼，各种烦恼的热恼传来的。所以当我们继续修到有一天我们获得证悟的时候，我们自己的色身上面也会有同样的这种八吉祥的这个征兆出来。所以每一个这样八吉祥这种都有它暂时跟就近的功德利益跟它的意义。
这基本这些古典吧，长期这种的人我把长期个干的，别人那的进步部门的基本上的，都嘛长期搞出个各种别人做差的这里。政府部的基本上，总之讲我喷的，这各式的人用了落叶的，出各种也大有的，被铁当做人用做这个就看地嘛，那个是这个点的，这到了让大学这的人，我们这老师说你把这有的，这了样就就跟这个，那搞到他做你这平庸的到了讨厌有的。这喜欢这有的。
Then there is the 8 precious substances, and also each of these has its own individual explanation. For example, when the Buddha attained perfectly complete enlightenment in Bodh Gaya, there was a farmer's girl lecture mom who came to offer yogurt to the Buddha when his body was emaciated by enduring the hardships. And so she offered him this yogurt in a begging bowl. And eating this yogurt, then the Buddha again attained the youth of an 8-year-old. So it is representing the attaining of youthfulness as a temporary result. And so by offering the yogurt, for example, one will attain a similar temporary result as an interdependent connection or auspiciousness. And then each of those 8 precious substances has its own significance, the elephant's bile and so forth. Each of them has a temporary result that corresponds to the cause and also an ultimate result.
另外的8殊胜的物品呢，也有同样的作用，也是每一个东西它都有它你现不同的贡品，它在暂时来讲有不同的作用，跟当初你现的这个因有相关联的，在就近上来讲也有它的功德利益跟它的作用。比如说当初释迦牟尼佛在菩提迦叶在菩提树下在菩提迦叶苦修的时候，身体到后来非常的虚弱，后来牧羊女看到了之后就献了酸奶在他的那个钵里面，所以当佛陀喝了这个酸奶之后，他的色身就变成一个好像一个8岁的小孩子这样子。所以献这个酸奶它暂时的作用就是会让你变得非常的年轻，所以你所做的因跟你暂时的果会有相关联的，直到你最后终究获得证悟的时候，它也会有它的相关联的作用的，跟它的意义。那其他的比如说献上大象啊等等，也都有它不同的作用。
变了这些这个呢，做通告部也是去吧，拉长把的，你长期的在喷呢，跟长期的各种作用的结论出来的，看从18生差不多的，实际上去，这里再不忘记去了，这到这些的这个他同行一出的， 다치고 요리 대나 게더니 로비망고 요리 들 디바이라 나를 얘기는 컨트롤해.
And then another one of the eight precious substances is the white conch shell that turns to the right, and that was offered by the god Brahma to the Buddha, and it represents the pervading of the Buddha's enlightened body, speech, mind, qualities and activities throughout the three realms of existence, and overpowering to faith all sentient beings. And so therefore also the white conch shell that is turning to the right is considered very precious. So each of these substances has its own story or explanation, and today we will just keep that brief.
你另外的八珍宝也另外一个例子就是说白色海螺右旋的白色海螺，当初婆罗门神他献了一个这个右旋的白海螺给佛陀，那它所代表的意义就是佛陀的身语意跟事业都遍布三界。那所以其他的吉祥物也有不同的意义，在这边就不一一详述。
假设那对的啦，那你基本假设了别让呢后来就叫我他们假设那对的，那得有后来我这么人我让我当着嘛公司。Kolo, Norbe, Sumo, Lumbo, Langbo, Tamcho, Mapu, 唱什么？那边，唱什么？这呢，从前我说的去几家是一张，你基本家是你基本家是的别从这里去几家是。요래 이제 기분 자체가 자고치 몰라 때다가 참아 요래 스몰로 뭐 그래서 랑보지 다다다라는 배나 무슨 저거치 뭐 남들 다다 살아서 바탕에 배 남들 당선이 리리테라서 바탕에 자라친이 지요라 내는 랑보지 배 강이잖아 이제 스바 자체가 되니 속치모 내가 리리게 자라바고 컨트롤라 被觉得龙波的确实讲是方面，若做曾经他这个东西的产业可他不要的啥就是什么被小气的被龙波而且，这龙波的呢，他去年的你说吧，确实从这间的曾经他就是批发的那个，就吧，这那说龙波的嘞，用电他这的嘛，这里个的吧。 龙波派的给到他不要的，等好了的呢，他去年好了，看说是把说去年好了过了，给到的呢，他做产业的用的干的，他做这个干的给到他不要的，马尔的产出成个别的，这基本讲起来他帮助高了是吧？帮助个别的。 去家是산촉샘이 산촉샘이나 산촉샘은 어른데 그랬더니 취자시 때나 다시 제발 니제 그래 이제 기브 자시나 다다다 기브 자시는 제거람지 말아봐 그래 이선나 사지 쫀디인데 그 자고 세상마 자시지 마요 다 취자시 장성으로 그래 그 뒤선다 네 특집을 자시 배치는 취지 자시 장마들이 다다 산지 쫀디인데 그 취지 자시 장마들 다 사지 것이 가세요네 잡을리네 산지가 땜바를 못 쳐대 사지 자시들 매야요 말이 말 가세 매봤다나야 이 터부요 말 매가 또 터부요 말해 그 뭐남 것도 가다세 텔레티네 취지 자시 좀 사지 좀 내가 취지 자시 종야 이제 기부 자시 빵 되게 다다 原地得到人家进不假期，变冲个这里去假期了得到了，养血压有儿子。
Then there is the 7 royal attributes, and they are those attributes that are possessed by wheel-turning kings, and they refer to the kingdom of the Dharma as opposed to the kingdom of the world. But the worldly kingdom is taken as an example in order to illustrate the Dharma kingdom. So those 8 royal attributes are the precious wheel, the precious jewel, the precious queen, the precious minister, the precious elephant, the precious steed, and the precious general. And each of them is very meaningful. So the worldly kingdom is taken as an example in order to show or illustrate the Dharma kingdom. For example, in a worldly kingdom, we have a great king, and that king also has a queen and ministers and so forth. But then what does the precious elephant represent, for example? In a worldly sense, we have different carriers, vehicles that carry heavy loads, like airplanes or trains and so forth. So what the elephant represents is great strength, the ability to carry any heavy load. And so in the context of the Dharma kingdom, that represents the strength of a Buddha or of a Bodhisattva who is able to carry the suffering of sentient beings of the 6 realms. So it represents great strength and power. Then also there is the precious minister, and also that is explained in Dharma and in a worldly context. And by offering each of these precious, auspicious, these royal attributes, there is a special quality or a special power that one will obtain as a result. For example, by offering the precious wheel, that represents the turning of the wheel of Dharma throughout the 3 realms of samsaric existence. And then also that is a temporary result, which also leads to the ultimate result of the quality of enlightenment. And then there is the precious jewel, for example, that represents